He's talking to a reporter from Tiger Beat. He's talking about him maybe the sexiest man on Capitol Hill this year. He's commenting.
There you go. Our chairs are here.
Yeah.
We're here.
Discharged.
We're standing behind you.
We have a great team. How are y'all? Welcome, everybody. I appreciate the interest in this very important issue, and that is energy policy. What keeps the lights on for families, what creates millions of jobs, and has allowed America now to become the dominant energy producer in the world. And so the House Energy Action Team is here to help promote the great conservative energy policies that not only create millions of jobs in America and allow us to be a dominant energy producer, but help families have lower electricity costs, help us bring manufacturing jobs back to America, all while actually reducing carbon emissions. Look at what we've been able to do in America with liquefied natural gas, now being able to export to our friends around the world, and how that helps us geopolitically. Because so many countries were getting their energy from countries like Russia with heavy strings attached, very bad strings that were attached just to heat their homes in the winter. And now they can get their energy from America, an ally. It not only helps our economy, but it helps our friends around the world. That's the importance of a sound, solid energy policy. And we don't just want to talk about the great things that we've been doing to have a solid energy policy with good laws and sound, fair regulations. We also want to contrast it to what Nancy Pelosi and her radical leftists are trying to do to promote things like the Green New Deal, where they literally try to not only get rid of fossil fuels in 10 years and end airplane usage in 10 years and other ludicrous ideas, but it would dramatically cause household electricity rates for families to skyrocket. Some estimates show that the average family is paying a little over $100 a month now for electricity, and they'd be paying more than $600 a month under the Green New Deal. So sound energy policy is critical for families to be able to continue to have their chance at the American dream, and for America to continue to be a dominant producer of energy and a manufacturer for the world. So with that, I want to introduce the two co-chairs of the House Energy Action Team. First, Jeff Duncan from South Carolina. Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Good afternoon. I want to thank Whip Scalise for letting me help chair this with my co-chair, Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma. And the slogan for the House Energy Action Team is fueling new ideas to power America, but it's also focusing on what works. We have a robust economy in this country. It's growing every day, and it relies on a stable, reliable, 24/7 baseload power supply. And as we focus on all of the above approach to energy, we also need to focus on what works. And what works: fossil fuel generated power, hydro, nuclear power. 20% of the power generation of this country is with nuclear power. In my district in South Carolina, 58% of our electricity needs met with nuclear power. And so we're going to focus on all of the above, truly, the renewables as well as the standard. I look forward to working with my colleagues. If you see the number of folks standing behind us, they want to get engaged in energy policy for this country, because they know we've got to meet future demand, and we need to use 21st century technology to do that. But everyone in the group behind me have certain interests for their area, for their state, for their district, but also an understanding that we're a nation and we've got to meet our nation's energy needs, to focus on those, to push back against a lot of the whacked out Green New Deal, very costly, insane policies that are put forward by the left, to counteract that, but also focus on what works and what we can do with free market innovation to move the technology forward and meet our power demands. It's not just transportation fuels. It's also electricity generation that we need to focus on. And with that, I want to recognize the other co-chair, Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma.
Thank you. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here, and thank you from our co-chair, Duncan and Steve, for putting this together. Guys, at the end of the day, the HEAT team is about all the above energy. It's not about picking winners and losers. The government shouldn't be in a position for picking winners and losers when it comes to energy. It should be the consumer making those decisions. If we just simply picked wind or solar to power this great country, it would take up 12% of our land mass. That's the size of Texas. And guess what? The wind doesn't always blow, and the sun isn't always shining. It takes fossil fuels to make sure that we have a unique approach to powering this country. If we're going to be energy independent, then we got to embrace all energy. And that's why this group is united in bringing all of it to the table. We're not against solar, we're for solar. We're not against wind, we're for wind. We're not against hydro, we're not against fossil fuels, and we're not against nuclear. We want to mesh it all together and allow the consumer to have energy efficiency, allow them to be able to have energy at a reliable and a consumable price. We want to be able to invest in industries that's wanting to come here because they need the unique power system that we have. And guys, the HEAT team isn't just trying to put out some program like the Green New Deal. We're 100% putting all of it on the board and saying, let's push it equally. So thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us the time. You're going to see a lot of innovation. You're going to see a lot of ideas coming out of the HEAT team, and we look forward to working with you guys. With that, I give it back to Whip Scalise.
Thanks, Markwayne. Appreciate your leadership, Jeff and Markwayne. And when families get the benefit of good, sound, conservative energy policy, it's not only in jobs, it's in things like lower electricity costs in their house. And in the summer, that's really important. When you come from South Louisiana, you want to be able to run the air conditioner without having a $500-600 sticker shock bill. When you have incredibly cold winters in the Northeast, like we just experienced, you want to be able to heat your homes and have a reliable source of energy to produce that for your family, to keep your family safe at an affordable cost. That's what American Energy does. Then you look at the contrast, what Pelosi, AOC and others want to promote in things like the Green New Deal. Somebody that's going to be talking now about what we're doing next to help Democrats and Republicans have a robust debate on the House floor about our policies versus theirs, and specifically the Green New Deal, is Jody Hice, who's going to be bringing a discharge petition on the Green New Deal. I'd like to bring up Jody Hice from Georgia.
Thank you, Whip Scalise, and I want to thank Congressman Duncan and Mullin for launching the HEAT team. I look forward to working with them. Folks, listen, the reason we're here today is very simple. The American people need to know where their representatives stand on this radical proposal, the Green New Deal. And make no mistake about it, regardless of what supporters say, it is a radical proposal that will dramatically take American society further to the left. And I want to vote on it. My colleagues behind me want to vote on it. The vast majority of Republicans want to vote on it. And the American people deserve to know where their representatives stand on this issue. There are 92 Democrats who have co-sponsored the Green New Deal, and they believe that's what America wants. But even Speaker Pelosi does not want to have a vote on the floor because she herself recognizes this is too radical for her to even bring to the floor. So that's why we're here. The message to my socialist Democrat colleagues is very simply, we're looking for at least 20 of them out of the 92 to have the courage to stand up to the co-sponsoring that they did on the Green New Deal. We want them to join with Republicans for the sake of a recorded vote on the Green New Deal. And after Easter, when we come back, I will be filing a discharge petition on the rule resolution that I've already introduced. And with the help of the majority, we will be able to force a vote, an immediate vote on this legislation. We need a majority, and there's no question in my mind we certainly will get the vast majority of the Republicans, and we will need a handful of Democrats. And that's what we're calling on them for at this time, and that's what the discharge is all about. I'm deeply disappointed. Even as yesterday we saw 43 Senate Democrats vote present on this Green New Deal rather than honestly let the American people know where they stand on this. I'm hopeful that our House colleagues in the Democratic Party will not do the same, but that they will come to the table and express where they stand on this. So I know when I put my name on a co-sponsor, as a co-sponsor on a bill, that's because I intend to vote for it. And I know I'm not alone in that. So now is the time to vote for the Green New Deal. I thank you for being here.
And look, when a leftist bill is too radical, even for Barack Obama, you know it must be bad policy. With that, I know a few of my colleagues would like to say maybe a few things before we open it up for questions. So we'll open up the floor for. All right, we'll start with, Klein, come on up.
Thank you, Whip Scalise, for starting this HEAT team, for having a debate. I want to thank Congressman Duncan, Congressman Mullin, for also leading the HEAT team to advocate an all-of-the-above energy policy, because, we can look to solar, we can look to wind. Frankly, I'd love to find some way to bottle all the hot air coming out of these Democrat presidential candidates who are talking about the Green New Deal one day and then cutting and running yesterday. I hope that Congressman Hice and his discharge petition are going to be successful, because I want to have that debate in the House of Representatives. The people deserve to know where we stand on energy policy, that we're not just about pie in the sky solutions that will never be a reality, that we actually stand for real solutions for working families. It's a terrible deal for Virginia and for Virginia's agricultural economy as well, which has an impact of $91 billion and supports 400,000 jobs in the Commonwealth. If we lost these industries, it would cripple the Commonwealth and many families in the 6th District of Virginia. It's an unbearable burden on farmers, and we have to reject this proposal. So I look forward to the debate, and I hope the discharge petition is successful. Thank you, Mr. Whip.
Sure thing. Tim Walberg from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Whip.
Newhouse on deck.
And thanks to the leaders of this HEAT team. Michigan is back. Michigan's a great state, abundant resources we have. But back in 2008, I was here, and we saw Speaker Pelosi at that time calling for a vote to bail out the auto industry. That's not a good thing. The home of the auto industry, motor capital of the world, needs energy as well. And we're back now. I have the privilege of representing Michigan's 7th District, which is an all-of-the-above energy district. We have wind, we have solar, we have hydro, we have natural gas, we have coal, we have nuclear power. All of that is a reason why we have the opportunity now to see, just in the past 2 months, 900 jobs brought back to Michigan to auto industry, plants opened up, 3 new engines being built in my district. Up in the northern part of my district, 1,200 jobs being brought back to the most up-to-date plant in the entire GM train. All of that's taking place because we're taking an interest in moving ourselves forward with energy that meets the needs. And we even have Toyota bringing their research and development center from California to Michigan. Why? To be where the auto industry is. But they need all that goes into technology. That means energy. So for us in the auto capital of the world, if we don't have a plan that works, we don't have workers. That's why the AFL-CIO has stood in opposition to the Green New Deal. That's why the UAW rank and file are working with us to move energy forward. I'm glad to be part of this plan. We've got the ideas. Let's make sure that the Democrats, socialists also understand this is for America and in America's best interest. I turn it over now to Dan Newhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Walberg. Thank you, Whip Scalise. And I want to thank all of my colleagues that are standing with me today. Despite all of the supporters' claims that the world's going to end in 12 short years, not a single Democratic senator supported the Green New Deal when they had the chance to yesterday in the Senate. The Green New Deal would devastate our economy and gut our nation's energy sector. In my home state of Washington, nearly 70% of our energy that powers our homes, that powers our businesses, is produced from hydroelectric sources, a clean, renewable, carbon-free source of baseload energy. We also use clean, dependable baseload energy provided from nuclear power. Without our hydroelectric dams, without our Columbia generating station, all of these things that are in my district, my state would not be at the top of the list of clean energy producing states. The Green New Deal dismisses hydro as well as nuclear sources of low carbon energy, because the fact is that the plan was never about sound science or a realistic attempt to meet our electricity needs of our communities. The plan's real goal is to realign our economy along socialist lines. No wonder. When heads were counted yesterday in the Senate, not a single supporter of the Green New Deal voted yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'd like to introduce now Representative Armstrong. Turn the podium over to him. There he is.
Yeah. I'm going to do Lesko first.
Okay.
Hello. I'm Kelly Armstrong. I'm from North Dakota, and the North American shale revolution began in the Bakken oil fields in western North Dakota. And there's a lot of people here that are going to say a lot of different things, but I want you all to know how important it is for rural America. In my communities, schools were closing, towns were dying, and now we're building new schools. We have careers. Families and communities are having tremendous opportunities for their kids to go back to work right in their home state, in their hometown. And we do all this while we're feeding and powering the world. This is an economic issue, it's an energy security issue, and it's a national security issue. The Bakken oil fields and the shale plays that are going on across this country are going to allow the United States to be energy independent, and they're going to allow for us to continue along the lines of having the cheapest, most secure food and energy source in the history of the world. And we'll continue to produce those things, and North Dakota will continue to feed and drive the economy. So with that, I'll introduce Representative Debbie Lesko.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Anybody that knows me, I'm Debbie Lesko from the great state of Arizona, and anybody that knows me knows that I'm absolutely passionate about energy issues and have been involved for quite some time while I served in the state legislature for 9 years. And so that's when I saw this Green New Deal, I knew it was no deal at all for the American public. Well, you know, while Democrats advocate for their extreme and radical energy proposals like the Green New Deal, House Republicans like us will champion an all-of-the-above energy strategy that will keep our country energy independent and at the forefront of innovation. You know, I recently joined U.S. Department of Energy Secretary Rick Perry at Arizona Public Service, which is our big electric producer in Arizona, in Buckeye, Arizona. Arizona Public Service recently announced one of the largest battery storage initiatives in the nation for utility-scale solar. Free market solutions like these create a diverse portfolio that keep energy prices low for families and small businesses and help power the nation. Arizona also has Palo Verde Nuclear Plant, the largest producing nuclear plant in the entire nation. I look forward to working with this group and fighting against the Democrats' radical agenda that will increase utility rate prices. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Representative Graves.
Hey, I'm Garrett Graves from South Louisiana. I'm here to support science. I'm here to support evidence. I'm here to support proof. I'm here to support policies that are proven to have worked. The United States is the envy of the world today. You can look around, we're the sole superpower. Other countries come to us to learn from us. What we've done over the last 200 years is we've incentivized success. We've allowed Americans to achieve their definition of success, whatever it may be. And we've done that through pro-growth policies. And look, just over the last 2 years, look at what we've done with tax reform, with regulatory reform, and look what we've done with changes in trade policy. Some of the statistics now are proof that these policies work. Looking at record low unemployment for African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, and women. It's proof that these policies are the ones that are ultimately successful. Why would we reverse course? Why would we pivot and go in a completely different direction? How many people are out there going to Venezuela, North Korea, Cuba, and other countries to get pointers from them on how to govern? No one's doing it. Why would we pivot from that strategy of success that has resulted in the United States being the sole superpower? Why would we push in a different direction? Even the United States Senate yesterday, as Congressman Newhouse just noted, the Green New Deal, that is the complete pivot. Not one single vote in support of it yesterday, showing how absurd, how unrealistic that policy is. You look around the you look around the world, and you see what countries are pushing all of these strategies to move to 100% renewable. You know what countries it is? It's the countries without the energy resources. Similarly, look in the United States. Which districts are pushing Green New Deal? The districts without the resources. Our home state, we have the lowest electricity rates in the United States. We have the lowest rates. There's a way to move forward based upon the successful strategies the United States has carried out for years, that's pro-growth, that's pro-job, that's pro-environment, and it's pro-America. Those are the strategies we're going to advance. Thank you. And going to Representative Buddy Carter from Georgia.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Buddy Carter. I have the honor and privilege of representing the 1st Congressional District of Georgia, which includes the entire coast of Georgia. Over 100 miles of pristine coastline. This is extremely important to us. Listen, climate change is real, and protecting our environment is real. We get that. We understand it. What is not real and what is not realistic is the Green New Deal. That is pie in the sky that will destroy our economy. That is simply not the approach we need to be taking. Yes, we do take this very serious, and it should be taken serious. I've always subscribed to an all-of-the-above type energy strategy, and I think that's very important. You know, while the Democrats would look at this as an opportunity to have government overtake our society, I look at it just the opposite. This is a great opportunity for us in America. We are the land of innovation. There are innovators in our country. They are just waiting to have this opportunity. We need to do everything we can to incentivize them and encourage them to take advantage of this opportunity, to come up with clean, reliable, affordable electricity with different routes. But it's going to have to be an all-of-the-above type strategy. We understand that. This is also important to our military, to our Department of Defense. I have Kings Bay Naval Base in my district. It's been identified as the second most vulnerable port to be impacted by climate change. That's something we need to consider as well. So there's a lot happening here, but I would submit to you that America is ready to shine. We're ready to take advantage of this. The innovation that lies here is still to be found. I look forward to this. I look forward to see what our innovators here in America do. Thank you very much. Next is Representative Hearn. Yes.
Thank you all so much for being here. I represent Oklahoma's 1st Congressional District, and as many of you probably know, Oklahoma's energy industry employs hundreds of thousands of people and generates about $50 billion a year in revenue for the state. And when you look at what the Green New Deal is also attacking, which is our airline industry, our aerospace industry, it's another 40+ billion. So about 75% of our revenues in our state would go away with the passage of the Green New Deal. Oil and gas companies bring in high-paying jobs to my district and have been the single largest contributor to state revenue in recent years. Energy is the lifeblood of Oklahoma's economy. Under the toxic Green New Deal, we would lose those jobs and the important impact those companies have on my state. This bill is an astronomical price tag that nobody wants to talk about how we're going to pay. In fact, the leading sponsor of this says we will just figure out how to pay for it. $93 trillion. To pay for it, they suggest a 70% tax rate. But even when you look at that, we would have to estimate taxing 100% of the revenues on people who make more than $100,000 and still not pay for it, assuming you all would want to work for free and give all your money to the government. But in order to come even close, taxes would be severely raised on all income levels to make this work. So not only is this legislation detrimental to my state's economy and the key industries, but it would also destroy the country's economy and shatter our way of lives, our travel norms, what we eat, and where we live. I'll leave you with this thought. Yesterday, the Senate voted it down 0 to 57. None of the 12 Democrats who sponsored this bill voted for it. In fact, 43 senators refused to cast a vote at all, just voting presence. Their silence speaks volumes about how they feel truthfully about the Green New Deal. Thank you so much for being here. Representative Bill Johnson.
Well, Whip Scalise, colleagues, it's great to be here with my colleagues to talk about this very disingenuous proposal, the Green New Deal. I represent Eastern and Southeastern Ohio, And I dare say it's a part of the country that has benefited the most from energy development. When I came into office in 2011, unemployment popped up in many of my counties, around 15%. Over the last 8 years, we've seen that unemployment consistently drop. Many of my counties lowering unemployment by as much as 50, some of them almost 60% over the last 8 years, largely due to the energy development in my district. And now the Green New Deal, were it to go into effect, a $90+ trillion price tag on the backs of the American people over 10 years, threatens to undo all of that, to destroy opportunities, to destroy jobs, to drive energy costs through the roof. You've already heard it said. Yesterday, senators that sponsored the legislation in the Senate failed to vote for it. In the House, nobody on the Democrat side wants this brought to the floor because they don't want to have to say where they stand. Well, the American people need to know where they stand. Don't forget, some of those very senators that failed to tell the American people where they stood and failed to come out and support the very legislation that they co-sponsored are the same Democrat senators that think they can be the next president of the United States. I don't know about you, but this doesn't make any sense. This is all about politics, and it's not about the welfare, the care and feeding of the American people. I urge all of you, become informed about what the Green New Deal is. It's not a good deal. It may be a green deal, but it's not a good deal. And with that, let me introduce my friend and colleague, Representative Ralph Norman.
Thank you, Congressman Johnson. I am so excited, and I appreciate my colleagues, Whip Scalise, Markwayne, for being here. You know, imagine putting up a bill and not wanting to vote for it. Imagine being a sponsor and voting present. That's not what the people sent us up here. And the best way for me to describe this, folks, we've got two different worldviews. You've got the socialist left, the Nancy Pelosi's, the AOC's, that think the answer to every problem in this country is put 1,000 pages on the Federal Registry, versus those of us who are standing behind me who believe in business, who believe in the free enterprise system, who believe in families working. That's what this is about. And we're not going to be silent on this. I'm from South Carolina. 50% of our power is nuclear energy. We employ 600 people in my district on the nuclear side. North Carolina and South Carolina would be left in the dark if the Green New Deal passes. And it's a bill, folks, when you ask how you going to pay for it, they just said, we're going to pay for it. How? We just are. What kind of answer is that? Those of us in the private sector could never get a bank loan by saying, we're just going to pay you back. So that's what's at stake in this country. That's what's at stake that we're going to fight for. And that's why this thing is going down, and we're going to be a part of it. I look forward to signing the discharge petition and making this thing a recent history, and make the American people aware of what the left wants to do. Thank you so much. Let me, Representative Burchett.
Thank you, Ralph. If y'all think they saved the best for last, you're wrong. I'm second to last, but I appreciate y'all being here. When I was in the state legislature in Nashville, there was a saying that we always used to use, and it was, I know what you're against, but what are you for? And I want to personally thank Whip Scalise, co-chairmans Mullin and Duncan, for telling y'all what we are for, because this is what we are for, and we're putting a plan out. And I want to thank our fellow members also. It's exciting to be a part of this group. Our energy sector is vital to the economic stability and security of our great nation. At Oak Ridge National Laboratory in East Tennessee, where I represent the county just next door, but over 6,000 people that work at ORNL live in the 2nd Congressional District. Some of the greatest minds, not in Tennessee, not in America, but in the world, are working on the cutting edges of new and renewable energy technology every single day. ORNL also operates the Manufacturing Demonstration Facility in the Institute for Advanced Composites Manufacturing Innovation. That's a mouthful, but It's where the researchers and they're developing manufacturing technologies that will make generation and delivery of new and renewable energy sources more cost effective. And I guarantee you, every one of these processes that were talked about up here, some component of that will be developed at ORNL. Of course, that's good for our environment, it's great for our economy, and it's great for our country. One of the goals is also of this coalition is to not only find ways to use alternative energy to strengthen our economy and create jobs, but it's to also make America more secure and less dependent on other nations for our energy's future. We need to turn our attention to the effective processes like pyrolysis, clean nuclear, or even energy sources that are still under development to achieve these goals. I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues to discuss energy policies that boost our economy, strengthen our energy security, and that are actually meaningful and realistic. Thank y'all so much for allowing me to be here, and I'll turn it over to Representative Muser.
Well, thank you. I think we saw yesterday, by a complete lack of vote for the Green New Deal, that the Green New Deal is really nothing more than a lot of hot air. And I think we also see that our Republican leadership with Whip Scalise and Representative Mullin, they're bringing the heat. And that's what our people want, right? I think Congress owes it to the people to have a realistic plan for energy independence and affordability. I'm from Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's 9th Congressional. And as I tell my friends from Texas, well, Pennsylvania is the new Texas. We've got the second largest reservoir of natural gas in the country. We've got cracker plants. We've got some of the cleanest refineries in the Philadelphia refinery in the world. These are things that we need to maximize and we need to promote. And we need to be real with the American people on delivering the cleanest, most affordable, accessible energy for our country, so as we can be the beacon on the hill, so as we can be the most competitive and provide the most opportunity for our people. We are the land of opportunity, and we got to stay real with our people. They deserve that, so thank you.
Pete Olson.
Wrap it up. I'm sorry, Representative Pete Olson, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Pete Olson, and I'm a proud Texan. Despite some of the comments about New Texas and North Dakota starting to know that shale started, the Barnett Shale play in Fort Worth, Texas. Now I want to give it all a quiz, interactive. Raise your hand or nod. Is Texas #1 for oil production in America? We are. Is Texas #1 for natural gas production in America? Is Texas #1 for wind production in America? Is Texas #1 for carbon capture in America? Yes, we are.
But not in football.
Back home in Texas 22, the people I work for have this project called the Petronova Project. It's all about carbon capture. What they've done is bought some technology. They have 4 coal plants and 4 natural gas. 1 coal plant captures 98% the CO2 coming up that pipe, and they don't store it in the ground, they use it as basically more force, more pressure in an old oil field. It's viable. The Green New Deal just wants us to capture carbon and magically do something with it. That technology costs NRG $1 billion. How in heck can somebody who's providing power swallow $1 billion and not pass those costs on to consumers? It's just a fallacy, fallacy, fallacy. And 3 final points. Ms. Pelosi called it the Green Dream. It's a dream. Barack Obama, a staunch conservative fiscal leader here in D.C., said these big, bold ideas have to be paid for. Wow, Barack Obama have to be paid for. And as my colleague said just a few days ago, every person across the plaza here, every senator who's in the Democrat Party did not vote on the Green New Deal. The American people deserve that vote. Come clean with the cost of our economy. Vote, vote, vote. Sign that discharge petition. And oh, by the way, the Houston Astros are coming back, baby. One more World Series.
Before I say go Tigers, as you can see, when I talk about bringing the heat, what we really mean is a coalition all across this country of very passionate, smart members of Congress who are proud to talk about what makes America work and how energy policy has improved the lives of everyday families, has lowered electricity costs, and created millions of jobs that get more and more people an opportunity to achieve the American dream. With that, we'll be happy to take some questions. Yes, ma'am.
When the Green New Deal was first introduced, the Western Caucus warned against responding to it and the like, and it might get sucked into actually putting together legislation to be harmful. What is your response to that?
Well, our biggest thing is you need to take the Green New Deal serious. It's not about energy. It says very little about fossil fuels, and it's all about a socialist program that Cortez is pushing forward. I mean, if you look at how they're going to fund education, they're going to do it by taking over our universities. How they take over our universities is by eminent domain, by climate change, by saying it's important, so you got to tear down the buildings, you can't afford it, government takes them over. There's a step-by-step once you go through. When you start talking about Medicare for all, well, how are they going to pay for it? They're going to take over our hospitals. They're going to force it on us. And so what we've been saying is it's very important for the American people to know with this discharge petition, where does everybody stand? It's not a secret. Everybody knows it's a socialist platform. That's why you saw the senators run from it. So now is Cortez and her fellow Democrats on the House, are they going to vote for it? Are they going to really say that the greatest nation in the world, where they had the privilege to come and work in this nation's capital, as much as we complain and we gripe about it, what an honor it is to serve? They're going to say that they want to fundamentally change the way we do government by voting for the new Green Deal, because that says that I'm openly an unapologetic socialist when I vote for that. And so that's what the discharge petition is all about, putting them on record.
Do you agree with the Trump administration that the ACA should be overturned?
Well, ultimately, the folks down the street, the Supreme Court, will decide whether or not the law is constitutional. A lot of us from the very beginning, when they wrote the Affordable Care Act, felt that it was written in an unconstitutional way, and in fact in an irresponsible way, because they threw it together at the last minute once Ted Kennedy passed away and they no longer had 60 votes in the Senate. The things they were planning to do to try to put together a bill that might be constitutional, they scrapped. And so if it's ruled unconstitutional, Nancy Pelosi should apologize to the American people for drafting a law that frankly was not written in a constitutional way. But regardless of where that goes, we have continued to promote a health care policy that, number one, protects families with pre-existing conditions and also focuses on lowering costs. And that's really probably the biggest difference between us and Democrats here in Washington, from Nancy Pelosi on down, is that we want to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but our policies let families choose the health care plans of their choice to buy whatever they think is best for their family, wherever they think it's best to buy it from, as opposed to the Pelosi way, which is government control. Government telling you what you can and can't buy. The people who said if you like what you have, you can keep it, broke that promise from day one and have never worked to try to correct it. So let's focus on lowering costs. Obamacare is unaffordable for families across the board. You're seeing double-digit increases every year. Some people with pre-existing conditions have a $10,000 deductible and can't even afford to get good care. So why don't we focus on helping those families achieve lower costs by buying the things that they know are best for their family, not government telling them what to do.
Please, you've probably heard some Democrats calling for a ban on gas and diesel vehicles by a certain period, on gas and diesel engines vehicles by a certain period of time. Would you get behind something like that, banning the sale of those vehicles at some point?
No, and in fact, I would suggest, for those people that say fossil fuels are immoral, I disagree with them, first of all. I think fossil fuels help save lives, help lower costs, help create jobs, help people have a higher standard of living in America. But if they truly think that fossil fuels are immoral, they should stop using them today. They should live by their words and actually practice what they preach. It's really ironic that the people that are telling you not to fly around on airplanes in 10 years are flying around on their own airplanes all around the country, telling you to change your lifestyle, but they won't change theirs. So I think that's the question that they should be asked.
Last
Doing a discharge petition on this, should we take this to be another tool that the minority plans to use, kind of like reduce the MPR successfully this year, to hammer the majority on their policy positions? Would we see it in the future maybe on Medicare for All, abolish ICE proposals, other things that you guys oppose and want?
Well, you'll see this Tuesday coming up. I will be filing a discharge petition on Ann Wagner's Born Alive Act, a bill that says if a baby is born alive in America, outside the womb, it ought to have full protections under law and the baby can't be killed. Right now in many states, and you saw it happen on display in New York, you saw the governor of Virginia trying to promote one of the most barbaric procedures I can imagine. In those states, you can kill a baby after it's born alive. I don't understand how that's legal in America. Many people don't even know that it's legal in America. We have a bill to say if a baby is born alive outside the womb, this isn't even part of the abortion debate in America. That's a human life that ought to have full protections, and the baby shouldn't be able to be killed. I hope we get 218 signatures and more. Frankly, every member of Congress should support that policy. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, you should all agree, we should all agree that if a baby is born alive outside the womb, it should have full protections under law. We'll be filing that discharge petition Tuesday. Jody Hice obviously will be filing his own discharge petition on the Green New Deal, and I'm sure a lot of our colleagues are looking at all the procedures available to us as elected voting members of Congress to advocate for the policies we know will get America back on track. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
Markwayne, Congressman, just wanted to say hi. I'm from West Virginia. Heard what you had to say. I appreciate it. I didn't know if any of the West Virginia delegates or representatives were kind of working with you guys.
Carol Miller was here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we are. We're working on some programs.
Yeah, because I mean, I think you mentioned you were talking about the national.
Yeah, can you grab the sign?
Really, that whole region, you know.